A bus tour into an alternate reality.
This is the State of Palestine official signage all over the place.
We're in the occupied West Bank, and our guide Naomi is railing against the Palestinian presence on land internationally recognized as belonging to Palestinians.
This is how they are living.
She helps lead a pro-settler campaign group, pushing for the demolition of what she terms illegal Arab communities. We're taken to the now abandoned village of Zanuta. This was the scene here a few weeks ago, distraught residents dismantling their homes. More than 1,000 Palestinians have fled communities in the West Bank since the start of the war. They were built without permission from the Israeli authorities, because Israel hardly ever grants permission. But what drove them out, they say, was escalating threats and violence from settlers.
These structures are all illegal. We counted every single illegal structure in Area C.
Naomi claims they left of their own accord. She blames Palestinian and Western officials for encouraging, in her words, squatters. It's a strange and uncomfortable feeling walking around this abandoned Palestinian school and this abandoned Palestinian village that's right now the center of a bizarre mirror universe where the ones who fled are the ones to blame. It's actually Israeli settlements in the West Bank that are considered illegal internationally. But this campaign group was founded by an influential far-right government minister, viscerally opposed to a two-state solution. They offer their own vision of the future.
Self-rule, autonomous zones with an overarching Israeli security jurisdiction. That's what you need.
So the vision you're outlining is basically a series of small Palestinian little islands.
All of those places can be very, very prosperous, well integrated into Israeli.
But not a state. They wouldn't
into
be a
the
proper
Israeli economy. No, it wouldn't be a state.
It wouldn't be a state, and they wouldn't. Would they take part in national elections?
Local elections.
Just local elections.
They have national elections in the country in which they have citizenship, which was and should once again be Jordan. That's why Jordan was created.
But isn't that a form of apartheid then? Because you have overall
yes,
security
it's
control.
Apartheid.
Well, it's most people would say it's anti-Palestinian apartheid.
It really isn't.
Because they
no
wouldn't have control
involved.
over their security. They wouldn't have control over their borders. They wouldn't have control, and they wouldn't get to vote in the elections of the country that is in control of those things.
They would have a choice of where to live. If they want not to live as a minority in a Jewish country, they have other options.
Violence has been spiraling in the West Bank since the war in Gaza began, with a worrying rise in attacks by settlers. Here, armed, masked men intimidate Palestinian villagers. This footage captured the moment a man was shot and severely injured in another incident. An imposing wall divides the territory from Israel, which seized control of it more than 50 years ago. Around 500,000 settlers now live here, alongside the Palestinian population. Their presence makes an independent Palestinian state practically impossible.
It's more than religion. It's in our bones. Our father and our mother start the nation here.
For Lahav, this land was promised by God to the Jews. We visit the tombs of the biblical figures Abraham and Sarah in an Israeli-controlled enclave in the city of Hebron. There are no Palestinians on the streets around us. Ever since the outbreak of war, the army has imposed a strict curfew on thousands of them living here. A few hundred settlers are free to come and go. How do you feel when you hear the Muslim call to prayer? Are you happy to be sharing this space?
לא מעט פעמים שמענו על דיבורים של דרשות לנקמות דם ליהודים, או כל מיני דברים כאלה שבעצם מסתתרים דרך התפילה המוסלמית.
There's a mix of prejudice and genuine fear. deadly attacks by Palestinians on settlers in the West Bank have been soaring in recent years. For the sake of peace, would you be willing to leave this settlement to go back within Israel's 1967 borders?
לפני כמה שנים, חלק מרצועת עזה היה התיישבות שנקראת גוש קטיף. אנחנו יצאנו משם, וגם הצבא שלנו. אנחנו רואים היום מה קרה מעזה. אנחנו רואים כמה טרור יש שם.
You'd like to see settlements once again in Gaza?
I always told people that when I grow up, I'm going to live in Gush Katif. There is my dream for
In Gaza.
a little child. You can call it Gaza, I can call it Gush Katif.
It's a dream that others share too. Inside a Gazan classroom, an Israeli soldier records a video. Children, he says, Gush Katif is coming back. In another video, a soldier says, we have two options, rebuilding the settlements or going back to the murders of October the 7th. Government officials deny they have any plans to re-establish Gush Katif. The settlers are seen as extremists by some Israelis, but their ideology is at the heart of the ultra-nationalist government here. Meet Zvi Sukkot, arrested on suspicion of attacks on Palestinians, though never convicted. He's now a member of parliament, though still a deeply divisive figure. When he attempted to join a march led by families of Israeli hostages, they angrily forced him to leave. Sukkot is now chair of a parliamentary committee on the West Bank. Attacks by Hamas, by Palestinian militants, are definitely a major obstacle to peace, but perhaps an even bigger obstacle to a resolution are the settlements in the West Bank. That makes a Palestinian state impossible, that makes any kind of resolution to this conflict impossible, isn't it?
ליהודים מותר לגור בכל מקום בעולם, בישראל, בבריטניה, בארצות הברית, ברוסיה, ואתה שואל אותי, גם בכל מקום אחר בעולם, כן, גם ביהודה ושומרון. אם מישהו טוען שאסור ליהודים להיות במקום מסוים, זה האידיאולוגיה הנאצית.
It's not a Nazi claim to say that. The United Nations, the international community, all consider the West Bank to be occupied, that land to belong to the Palestinians.
אמרת לי, זה שיהודים גרים במקום מסוים, זה מכשול לשלום. ואני אומר לך, לא. אם מישהו רואה יהודי וזה עושה לו מכשול לשלום, הוא נאצי.
As the war in Gaza continues, settlers are being armed and recruited into local defense groups in the West Bank. And the scramble to take over more land is intensifying. Under international law, all settlements in the occupied West Bank are considered illegal. But small outposts, even by Israeli law, are considered illegal. And this is how they often start. There's a family camped out here, and they ask us not to film them. But new outposts are springing up, and Israeli soldiers patrolling the area show no sign of stopping them. The settlers see themselves as pioneers, claiming fresh territory. But the more they build, the more prospects for peace erode.